Yeah, it's your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome to another episode of My Two Satoshis. It is October 31st, Halloween. And I want to give a shout out to my man, Sack of Nuts, for the song request today. Farside, Passing Me By. Classic 90s joint right there, boy. Again, what's good, people? Hope you guys are doing well. We got the song request list is loaded up, boy. We definitely got more song requests in now. So many of you who have requested a song, you gotta probably wait now. At this point, we may be about a week or so out, depending on when you sent your request in. But hope you guys are doing well today. We are going to be talking about Ron Paul today. Yes, the legendary libertarian Ron Paul. He's got some opinions about cryptocurrencies, and we're gonna take a look at that. Many of you may not know this. This is some throwback. You gotta be an OG in the game to know this. Ron Paul actually, and I don't know if he still does, but he had a cryptocurrency called the Ron Paul coin, and man, that was classic. I remember those days, the Ron Paul coin. We had the Kanye West coin. It wasn't actually officially launched by Kanye, but somebody did it, and Kanye ended up suing them. Any of you old school crypto cats, let me know if you remember those days, the Ron Paul coin. But anyway, he's got some choice words about government and cryptocurrencies, and anytime I see something about Ron Paul, I definitely want to make sure I cover that, especially if it's pertaining to cryptocurrencies. So that's a twofer there for you. And then the second article is about a report that came out talking about Bitcoin and its scaling. If it got bigger in the future, the mining resources necessary for the network to maintain itself and stay secure would push global warming temperatures over the threshold that would cause a catastrophic issue for the globe. I think it's a stretch, and this article is a rebuttal to that research. But I do want to have you guys do need to keep in mind there is an issue with scaling Bitcoin from a environmental standpoint and an energy usage standpoint that I think many people don't talk about. Like if we were to see Bitcoin utilize on the scale of a Visa, MasterCard, or etc., it's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of resources to do so, and quite frankly, I don't think it's at this point scalable to that magnitude. I'm just going to be honest with you. If you look at the figures, you look at all the mining costs and energy input and output from mining, it's just not scalable. But that doesn't mean it won't be utilized as a speculative asset, which I think it will end up doing. But let's take a look first at the market cap. $203 billion at the time of recording. Bitcoin's dominance is at 54%, and not too much. We got a slight bump up in the markets. I'm still short. I got short like right around here. Algo went short on my BitMEX algo, which will be available to the public this coming sign up, which will start next week sometime when I get back from Vegas. I'll have time to get everything set up for the new sign-ups. But I don't know, man. I'm still kind of bearish. Be honest with you, I'm still bearish for sure. I mean, we may see a little spike up like that, but I think we'll ultimately head further down. Let me save that. But yeah, that's where we are right now with Bitcoin, technically speaking. But let's take a look at the first article. It is out of Live Bitcoin News, and it says here, Ron Paul promotes cryptocurrencies, blasts Federal Reserve. Good for you. Ron Paul, the former U.S. representative, has blasted the policies of the Federal Reserve and says cryptocurrency transactions should be exempt from taxes. I think that they should too. That will spur a lot of growth in this industry, but hey, do they really want that type of growth to happen in the cryptocurrency industry? I'm not too sure about that. Ron Paul was known as a very libertarian firebrand during his time in the U.S. House of Representatives. While he is no longer in public service, the 83-year-old is still making waves, and this time he is singling out the policies of the Federal Reserve. In doing so, he is also promoting the use of cryptocurrencies. Says here, Ron Paul giving the Federal Reserve both barrels. In his latest weekly column, Paul goes into some detail on how he considers the use of interest rates by the Federal Reserve as crazy. He notes that people have happily used items like precious metals as money over the years due to the stability of it. Such stability means that the true value of goods and services is accurately conveyed between parties. Paul points out that the imposition of interest rates on government-issued currency undercuts the true value, and he notes that if the interest rates reflect the manipulation of central banks and not true market conditions, individuals will be unable to properly allocate resources between savings and current consumption. He goes on to say here, in contrast to market money, government-created fiat currency is anything but stable. Central banks constantly increase and decrease the money supply in an attempt to control the economy by controlling the interest rates. This causes individuals to misread market conditions, leading to misallocation of resources. Very true. And this is why, my wife always, every few months or so, she'll say, did you see the new strip mall that's up? Why are they adding more strip malls when, the ones that are already exist aren't at full capacity? And I tell her every time, it's the Federal Reserve. It's cheap money. These construction companies are able to get cheap money, or at least they were able to get a lot of cheap money. And when you have cheap money, you're going to do things in a very reckless way. If it costs me more money, if it costs me more to borrow money, then I'm going to be more selective about what I do, and I have to make sure that what I do outstrips the cost of that money that I borrowed. So that's, it's Ron Paul is so correct on that point. Goes on to say here, such acts by the Federal Reserve create an illusion of prosperity, and such an illusion is short-lived. Eventually, market forces will dictate that there will be a pushback in the form of a recession or depression. The Federal Reserve will then counter this by starting the entire boom-bust cycle over again. Paul explains how this policy of shifting interest rates and market control hurts the little guy who is unable to make any impact upon the dictates of the central government. Paul says, when central banks create money, those who first get the new money enjoy an increase in purchasing power before the new money causes a real increase in prices. Those who receive the money first are members of the banking and financial elite. By the time the new money reaches the middle class and working class, inflation has set in, so any gain in purchasing power is more than offset by the increase in inflation. Thus, central banks cause income inequality. Very true. That's why I was very pissed to see how they injected trillions of dollars into the banking system, saying, oh, it's gonna be a trickle down effect and it's gonna help middle class because we saved the banks. No, you should have just injected trillions into the middle class, the working class. We could have clearly wiped out all of student loan debt. I think at that point was maybe $1.2 trillion. We could have wiped that out easily. And man, do you know how much economic boom we would have seen just from doing that? Millennials would have been able to buy homes, car loan, all that. Everything would have been boosted up because people didn't have that debt burden of a student loan, which is basically a house, a mortgage. But they really, truly don't want to help you. That's what you have to understand, people. They really don't want to help you. They want to help themselves under the guise of helping the economy and keeping things stable. Ron Paul goes on to argue that the current Federal Reserve system is broken and cannot be fixed. In fact, he labels it as insanity. However, he does point out that there are steps to change this broken economic system. He suggests that the Audit the Fed bill be passed. Part of this bill allows individuals to use alternative forms of currency such as Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. He also stresses that all transactions using precious metals and cryptocurrencies be exempt from capital gains tax as well as other forms of taxation. The view on cryptocurrency dovetails completely with Ron Paul's libertarian economic views. He has long campaigned for the abolishment of the Federal Reserve, cutting back on government spending, never raising taxes, and doing away with personal income tax. He understands that the decentralization nature of cryptocurrencies puts economic power back into the hands of the people and away from grasping control of governments and banks. So man, that's so true, but unfortunately I'm just gonna, I like to keep it real, right down the middle. I don't try to get too optimistic or don't want to be pessimistic as well. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. They have a stronghold on this system, and unfortunately we won't see that ever come to pass under this current system. Do you guys think we'll ever see what Ron Paul is really about? Abolishing the Fed, doing an audit on the Fed. I think he was the one that even brought that bill to the table. It's not going to happen, people. It's just not going to happen, and we can forget about it. What we can do, though, is push and move this new industry of cryptocurrencies forward by promoting it, by using it, not speculating with it, primarily using cryptocurrencies to circumvent some of these issues that we find ourselves in with fiat currencies. You guys let me know, though, what do you think about Ron Paul and all my old heads? Like I said, my OGs in the crypto game, let me know if you remember that Ron Paul coin and that Kanye coin. That was hilarious. Those are good times back then. You know how we have all these tokens now? Back then we had all like hundreds and hundreds of coins. People would just make coins up, put them out on the Bitcoin talk forum, and people would just speculate on it. That's why I'm not all hyped up about all the tokens that we see out here, because I know that most of them will go away, just like most of coins went away. Before we move on to that other article, I do want to point out that it's funny, this article I read today kind of relates to a tweet that I put out a couple of days ago. And it says here, the Fed's data-dependent language about raising interest rates really means if equity markets retrace into correction territory, then we will stop raising rates. Fed can say all they want, but everyone knows they are stock market dependent, not data dependent. So I was sitting up watching CNBC, and I was just like, man, here we go again. You got Steve Leisman. I can't stand that guy. He was on CNBC talking. He's on the Fed's nuts, man. I can't stand that guy. But he was talking about how the Fed is data dependent and they don't look at the stock market. I'm like, come on, man. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts about Ron Paul. I'm sure most of you, my viewers, love Ron Paul. The second article, though, is out of CryptoVest. The problem with the Bitcoin climate change study published on Nature. A study published in Nature claims that Bitcoin's adoption will cause the Earth's temperature to rise past a crucial warming threshold. Oh man, the highly acclaimed research journal Nature just recently published an alarming study on Monday that claims that Bitcoin may push the planet past its meltdown point with its electrical consumption. Should Bitcoin follow the median growth trend observed in the adoption of several other technologies, it could equal the global total of cashless transactions in just under 100 years. Yet the cumulative emissions of such usage growth could fall within the range of emissions likely to warm the planet by 2 degrees Celsius within only 17 years, the authors wrote. And the study cited the 2015 Paris Agreement's goals for global warming as a reference point for the temperature rising. As for the CO2 required to achieve that, the study's authors use Earth system models projections to find correlations in temperature increases and atmospheric concentrations of the gas. The group of researchers then simulated what Bitcoin mining would look like in the future if it were to experience the same widespread adoption over time as credit cards, electricity, and dishwashers. They say here the likely future of Bitcoin has been broadly discussed in online forums, with options ranging from it being a case of boom and bust, or alternatively an early stage in the new industrial revolution. We studied the carbon emissions of Bitcoin if it follows the adoption trends of other broadly used technologies. Data included the year and percentage of the population using the given technology. The author wrote, lumping cryptocurrencies, especially those that use proof of work algorithms, in with climate change isn't something new. It's also the reason why mining companies have begun adopting the mantra of green mining. However, a short exploration of this study exposes a couple of flaws that may have not been obvious, but could have been accounted for with a fairly modest amount of foresight. Not all electricity is created equal. Although averaging fuel consumption for electrical power can provide helpful historical context and present-day statistics, it's a terrible way of predicting the future. Moving past this microcosm of price trends, the greater point is that the research assumes that current trends in fuel prices will stay in place and that countries around the world aren't pushing for greener electrical infrastructure. Most of the largest and most prolific miners established recently have chosen destinations like Ocean Falls, Canada, or Iceland. These are places where electricity is provided by hydroelectric or geothermal means. We do know that global electric power sector is decarbonizing, and the information technologies, including cryptocurrency mining rigs, are becoming much more energy efficient. It appears that authors have overlooked these two latter trends in their projections, while simultaneously insisting on tremendous growth in cryptocurrency adoption, resulting in inflated and dubious estimates of future carbon emissions. The article goes on to say, but even if everything was true, the relevancy of whether the study is accurate in its findings or not is overshadowed by an even greater elephant in the room. Adoption isn't what's causing higher electrical consumption. The fact that the Nature study equated Bitcoin's adoption with electrical consumption produced by mining shows a slight faux pas in its reasoning. The network's total consumption in gigawatts does not depend on whether there are thousands or millions or even billions of adopters trying to make transactions. To hammer this point further, below are two graphs representing a couple of metrics in Bitcoin's network since its inception. These two data sets alone provide two pieces of context that were missing in the study. And the first one is Bitcoin's hash rate is not correlated whatsoever to its daily transaction rate. That's very true. And then the second point is, since almost all of the blockchain network's electrical consumption boils down to its hash rate and the efficiency of mining computers, one could say that adoption rate won't influence the network's impact on the environment. As mining becomes less profitable, it will start to plateau. Right now, this is the trend we're seeing. And of course, all of this could change over the next few months if institutional investors begin injecting capital. Still, we anticipate that mining trends will continue to be affected regardless, as the reward for doing so is halved every few years. The ultimate conclusion here is that even in a perfect world where Earth system models are pristinely accurate and every country kept using coal, oil, and gas in the exact same proportion to generating electricity for the next 50 years, to say that Bitcoin would push the world past the 2 degrees Celsius warming threshold is inaccurate even in the most generous circumstances. And like I said, I did an actual my 2 cents video on global warming and a report that Martin Armstrong put out that showed that their data was all wrong and how they picked the increases in global temperatures over the past few hundred years. And it's just, again, I think it's an initiative to really scare people. This is yet another one. Question everything. That's my philosophy. You just got to question everything. So you guys let me know, what do you think about this? Will Bitcoin, first I really want to know is, those who are in the know about this, what are your thoughts about Bitcoin scaling and the energy footprint on Bitcoin as it does scale, let's say 5-10 years out? Do you see that being an issue? Do you see us running into issues with that? I definitely can see some issues there, but to this extreme, what this article or this Nature report is saying, nah, I think they're overblowing it for sure. So again, you guys let me know your thoughts about both of these articles. Ron Paul going at the Fed and this Nature report saying that Bitcoin is gonna melt the earth. It's your boy Crypto Blood. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And I gotta give a shout out again to Sack Nuts for The Far Side passing me by, a classic hip hop album right there. That's pretty much it though. It's my 2 Satoshis for October 31st, 2018. It's your boy Crypto Blood. I'm out. Holla!